Welcome to Coleman Report Live. What's my name, Lance? I forgot.
It's June 15th, Bob.
I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Yeah, I'm back to normal almost. Lance, welcome. Katie, welcome. What's going on, gentlemen and lady?
Well, Bob, if you look at my face here, you'd think I've been tanning, but I'm actually in a not well-lit studio. But just looking forward to some guidance from SBA on forgiveness. I think every participant bank in the country is wondering where this magical 15-minute form is for forgiveness. And I'm just joking, but I'm looking forward to seeing the new form. I think hopefully it'll make it easier for small businesses to apply for.
No, we've been waiting for that. We don't know what's going on with that. We're going to talk about retail sales increasing. Let me ask you, Lance, how's your dad's store doing?
Oh, he's doing outstanding. Of course, it's an electronics business, and some of the products, he sells PA equipment, Bob, and every church in the county went to some sort of, they'd have a church service where people drove in their cars, and the pastor was up on a trailer with a PA system. Every wireless mic, PA speaker, amplifier, all that equipment has sold. So he's had actually a year-over-year increase of double digits. So he's had
sales and electronics. Go ahead, Lance.
Well, I can also share, I have a brother in the furniture business, and he too has had year-over-year increases in March and April, but the concern that he has, Bob, he's going to get impacted by COVID-19 in a different way. As an example, refrigerators. He side-by-side refrigerators with ice and water in the door, he sold everything that he has. And the plants that manufacture those were shut down for an extended period of time. So he now has no side-by-side refrigerators, but still has demand, and he can't get product in. Same thing happened on furniture.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. The Commerce Department released their data. Furniture sales were up in May. Let's see, 89%. Your dad's appliance stores, electronics and appliance stores rose 50%. So,
yeah, my brother would explain it when the stimulus checks came out. People started showing up and buying living room suites and refrigerators.
Hey, let's go to the poll questions. What percentage of your customers have received an economic injury disaster loan? What do you think, Lance?
First of all, I think there'll be a lot of people that are not sure of the percentages. I'm going to say it's probably 10 to 25%. Could be lower, Bob. And part of the reason is I'm hearing from people all over my market that they applied and still have not received their EIDL loan.
Oh, there you go. We're doing 10 to 20 yet. So, those are pretty hefty numbers. So it looks like about a third of the people. Yeah, that third of them, they're over 30%.
Well, Bob, and I think if we ask this question 60 days from now, we would see a different result. We would see a higher percentage. I just think there are a lot of people who applied who are still waiting.
Yeah. Joseph, let's go to the third poll question. Let's just skip number 2 and go to 3. Retail sales increased nationwide in May, according to the Department of Commerce. This includes all retail. I already gave out electronics and furnitures. What do you think overall?
Hey, Bob, is this year over year or April to May?
This is year over year. I'm sorry. Let's see, month to month.
I'm going to guess May. Yeah, I'm with the group in 15 to 20%.
Yeah. Numbers indicate a high degree of pent-up demand. Let's see. Autos and gas purchases were up by 12%. Lance, what do you think? How many million jobs did we add in May? What do you think? And Katie, I'll let both of you give a guess.
Katie probably knows better than I, but I'm going to guess somewhere close to 2 million.
What do you got, Katie?
Yeah, I think I heard at 2.5 or so.
Katie got it, Lance. She nailed it.
I think I reported on it like a week ago, but I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah, 2.5 million. 2.5 million. Which is definitely good news. And to put that into context, Lance, and I don't have those stats, we should go back. I don't know what the largest increase in employment was after the Great Recession, but I doubt it was 2.5 million in 1 month.
I don't think
Bob, you know what caused that? PPP.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean that's where if we had not had the PPP program, the unemployment rate would not have dropped the way it did.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to I'm a history major. It's going to be fascinating to read the history books in a couple of years on this. Yeah, there's hiccups, but I really want to see a study of the government's reaction during the Great Recession versus the pandemic in terms of bailing out Wall Street versus bailing out Main Street. I think that's a fascinating topic. Katie, what do we got here on maturities of new microloans?
So there's 3 things really, and most of this is just rolling it back to what it was before the coronavirus really hit. Intermediaries are now prohibited from considering 11-12 payments when establishing a repayment schedule. They also cannot shorten the loan terms in order to make the payments from 11-12s to handle the principal. And also just in general, they're rolling back loan maturities for microloans to what they were before COVID.
Give us, we put up that there's an update on PPP, but I guess it's on the data. We filed a FOIA request. I'm very interested to know there were approximately, 2,500 7A lenders last year, and PPP lenders are over 5,000. I would like to know who those new participants are. I think that's interesting for the industry because the question is, will those additional 3,000 lenders switch and become 7A lenders?
Mm-hmm.
I got an interesting phone call the other day, and it's related to the PPP program and all the people that participated. And as we all know, there are a ton of new participant lenders in the SBA program as a result of PPP. A bank called wondering if they could get a list of all the PPP loan customers by financial institution. And I'm like, well, no, they're not releasing that information, which it was an easy question, but I was curious. I'm like, what do you want this for? And they were a good existing participant lending institution that had SBA experience and history. And they were saying, we want to go pick the low-hanging fruit from those people who jumped into PPP and probably will not continue doing SBA lending. So they were just looking for a marketing list, and very interesting use of that data if it were released.
Well, I'm curious to see if we have new, when all is said and done, if we have new competitors in terms of new 7A competitors, or was this simply a one-off? That's why we're interested in pursuing this. We have, let's see, economic disaster loans. It's now open for nonprofits. I think that's new. And Lance, just go through the logistics. Economic injury disaster loans are not funded by the lender. So tell us how that works.
They're funded by the SBA economic or the disaster office at SBA. It's a direct loan with SBA. You apply at SBA. You go to SBA's website at sba.gov to apply. It's a direct loan. It's much like for most of when you have a hurricane or a flood or a fire, and SBA, it's declared a disaster, and SBA disaster offices show up and provide financing for people to rebuild. Same kind of thing. The EIDL is just an economic injury disaster loan. So, I mean, it's similar to the disaster loans that are provided for those natural disaster events, and it's directly through SBA.
Lance, how do
Yeah.
they come up with a dollar amount for these businesses that are impacted?
I still am confused by it. You know,
That's what no one knows. That's the question.
It's what I call weird science, Bob. Somebody from SBA would really have to answer that, because my understanding, I've talked to some for recipients who said we applied for X and we got a different number that was bigger. And I talked to somebody who said they applied for X and got a much smaller number. So, you know, there is a formula. It's related to jobs and other factors in your business, but I have not spent enough time digging into the EIDL.
You know, SBA does look at cash flow. They do look at tax returns, so they are. There's a little bit more.
The most commonly asked question I get, because I get a ton of phone calls about EIDLs, is how can you use the money? And an EIDL loan is different from a PPP loan in that PPP loans are intended for payroll, mortgage interest, utilities, but the EIDL loan is a working capital loan. You're not supposed to use it. I mean, you can use it on payroll, but it's a working capital loan. So one of the most common questions I get, could I pay a loan payment out of my EIDL loan? Well, yes, that's part of working capital. You know, could I pay a utility bill? Could I pay a lease on a truck? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of working capital. So an EIDL is different from a PPP loan in that it's just it's much like use of proceeds on an express revolving line, working capital revolving line of credit. It can be used on any legitimate business expense.
Very good. And just to clarify, Lance, you're asking what the 18%, 17.7% was. It was between April and May. So we clarified that. And
I think we'll see a corresponding increase in June if we don't have a pullback in terms of, you know, we're starting to see most states are opening up. And, you know, my big concern is we're starting to see a surge in my state, Arkansas. There's been a tremendous surge in the COVID-19 cases. So I'm terrified, Bob, or afraid that there may be a pullback from the reopening. I hope not, because
you know, we're not. I'm not about to second guess our politicians on what they're doing. Our job here is to say, okay, it is what it is, and how do we respond? It'll be interesting. Katie, do you have any idea what they're predicting in June for retail sales? I haven't seen that number.
I haven't seen a strong prediction of any sort, but I do know that they were saying there's still a concern that a lot of people aren't going out and buying things like clothing, and even some, you know, children's toys, things like that. They're trying to stick with what they have a little bit longer. And so there's still a push right now to try to get more people to go out to stores to get things, because right now people just aren't going.
Well, they obviously did not talk to my wife.
Yeah, it's slowly going up. So hopefully it'll be a little bit higher next month, and it'll just keep going up. And again, hopefully we don't have another wave and it doesn't slow that down.
Yeah.
And Bob, one thing that's hard to factor in, you know, we see the retail sales numbers not dramatically off. It's because people are still buying things. I mean, the unemployment impacted retail sales, but for instance, in my backyard, Walmart's showing record performance. Dollar General is showing record performance. Amazon is showing record performance. That's retail.
Yeah, the ones that are hardest hit, obviously, are restaurants, hotels.
Yeah.
And even though it says gas station purchases are up 12.4%, I don't really believe that number, because people, I don't know, I'm not driving. I've had the same tank of gas for a month now.
Maybe people are buying groceries at the gas station.
There you go. Let's see. This is, well, Joseph, we can't read that, but what we'd like to do for our underwriting training is to give homework assignments, and this assignment was submitted to me. It was very in-depth. What we do in our training, Lance, is we don't do loan servicing 101 or loan closing 101, we were very specific about what we need to do for SBA. And here the homework assignment was, tell me what we need to do specifically as it relates to SBA. So I'm not going to mention the person's name. I think I could say it was Judy. But good job. Good job. Question for Rosemarie. We are starting to get paid for our PPP loans. Do you know if there is a report so we can reconcile our records? Again, logistics. How do we do the accounting, Lance?
That is an excellent question, Bob, because my understanding of how SBA is paying is they're paying, and Rosemarie, you might chime in or maybe send an email if I'm wrong, but my understanding, Bob, is they're paying on a loan-by-loan basis. So there should be an identifying number. I'm not sure that there is. There should be the ability to pull a report, but Rosemarie, I do not know. I mean, I would need further guidance from SBA on how to pull that report. I think the incredibly encouraging thing is we're starting to hear from participant banks that processing fee is showing up in their bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Mark, I'm curious as to Lance has taken customers who checked all the boxes for certifications, claiming their operation has been adversely impacted. They received their money. Now it's coming to lender for new money, expand with their financials, but there was no adverse impact. What do we do?
Well, here's the deal. They gave a safe harbor to any loans under $2 million. Basically, if you're a small business and the PPP loan was under $2 million, there's a safe harbor that says you're qualified, you're eligible. So those small businesses that receive smaller PPP loans, I mean, hopefully they were adversely impacted, but there was kind of a blanket, hey, if you're under $2 million, you're okay. So there are going to be quite a few PPP loan participants, recipients who came out of this or doing well, and we'll be looking for expansion. And I guess Mark is saying, you know, how's that going to go when you submit a SBA 7A request for $1 million for somebody that's just got a PPP loan? I think it's going to be fine, Mark. I think SBA's intent was to prop up businesses and put them in a position for growth. So, you know, I do not think this is a negative. You know, I believe there are quite a number of businesses that PPP helped them, but they were not on the verge of closing.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you, Lance. The spirit of the legislation, the spirit of the program is to get money out to Main Street. I don't see SBA or the Inspector General coming back and say, this company had $50,000 too much in their checking account.
Now, I do believe, Bob, you know, from everything that I've read, the PPP loans over $2 million are going to get looked at really hard. Rightly so. But your smaller PPP loans, basically, SBA came out with that safe harbor discussion that said, you know, below a certain size, you know, just being a small business in America with payroll, with employees, you're eligible.
Let me go to the questions real quick. Becky asks, is there a deadline to apply for forgiveness? We don't know, Becky. We're still waiting for guidance. So,
the end of the year.
I'm sorry, I stand correct.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to do it yet, but it'll come.
Yeah, it's a 24-week period. One of the big questions, Bob, and I'll be quiet after this because I know we're running short. Big questions that everybody's asked is, how do you set up the new note terms? Because there's a 10-month deferment that's supposed to start at the end of the forgiveness period. And as we all know, the borrower can pick the forgiveness period between 8 and 24 weeks. I think if you're doing a new PPP loan, you're going to just have to assume that they're going to take the 24 weeks, and there will be a 10-month deferment at the end of the 24 weeks, and the first payment would be the 11th month. And if my math's right, Bob, that means our first payment would be in November of 2021.
We've had this question before. Let's try to answer it for Michael. We have a construction loan, and it's not fully dispersed, so how do we handle this?
Is that in terms of the CARES Act payments?
Yeah.
It's not going to get the CARES Act. I mean, the hope, here's the thing, if you can get it fully dispersed by September the 27th, you'll still be able to submit for the CARES Act payments. They would still get 6 months worth of payments, but the loan has to be fully dispersed by September 27th in order to qualify for those payments. Early on, I wasn't sure if SBA would pay, for instance, the interest-only payment, and the answer is no, it's got to be fully dispersed. And once the loan is fully dispersed, and again, as long as it's fully dispersed prior to September 27th, I think it's the date, as long as it's fully dispersed by then, it will get 6 months worth of payments, much like a new 7A loan. If you underwrite a new 7A loan, approve it, underwrite it, close it this month, and it fully disperses, they're going to get the 6 months payments as well. So
Robert,
the key on that, I'm sorry, Bob, the key on that construction loan is hopefully they can get it dispersed before September.
we'll take one more last question. I know we're running a couple minutes over, and I'll hold these questions over for tomorrow. But Robert clarifies, SBA is paying PPPs on a loan-by-loan basis. Our bank can see the deposits with borrower information. We've been paid over 90% of our fees. So I think that's a nice way to end with.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Lance and Katie, always enjoyable. We have Lance's webinar coming up. Please take advantage of that. And of course, we have our data reports, which are as of December 31st, 2019. And this is where we changed our marketing a little bit. This is what Clark Howard said about us a couple years ago. So hey, thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.